Welcome to Super Agents Live. This is the one place where you can come and hear the most successful people in real estate. You'll hear how these super agents built their businesses, how they stay productive, and how they stay motivated. Who am I? My name's Toby Salgado, and I made my first $1 million in real estate. Yeah. And I'm your host for the next 30 minutes while we talk to yet another amazing real estate entrepreneur. Stay tuned.
Let's go! Yeah.
Guys and gals, hey, what's up? Toby Salgado here, Super Agents Live. Thanks for tuning in. Look, if this is the first time you're listening to the show, welcome. I'm glad you found the show. What we do on this show is we talk with top producing agents, coaches, and authors. Today's episode is episode number 141. Geez, we've been doing this a while now. So, look. Today's episode, I was fortunate enough to get to spend some time. I actually spent 3 days with this guy this summer hanging out in Colorado. We traded some emails with today's guest right before I was telling him his episode was going live. And here's what he told me. He said, hey, Toby, we finished 2014. We wrote 740 deals for $155 million. Okay, 740 deals. So this guy's a player. And look, here's what we talk about. We talk about how he got his start. How he got his start. You know what he did? The guy played basketball. He went out and found games around town, let everybody know he was an agent, and boom, boom, boom. We also talk about how it took him 10 years to get to 60 deals. It took him the next 10 to go to 600. And what he figured out along the way. Now, you know, some of the things he figured out, he said, listen, you should do as much advertising as you can. We talk about how he started working with builders and implemented that channel. So I hope you like it. I certainly liked it listening to it as we did the editing. Now, what I want you to do, if you haven't, I know you guys don't want to miss future content, future episodes like this one. So what you're going to want to do is go to the site, superagentslive.com. Download my free ebook called How to Sell, 37 pages that I think is great content. And you're going to want to register in our free membership plan. Now, on that free membership, we have lots of good spreadsheets and content and scripts and all that stuff. So go get it. Now, you guys know that we always have a sponsor. Today's sponsor is Real Estate Radio Experts. That's us. Listen, the secret weapon. Look, well, the best lead you get is a referral, right? That's the best lead you get. The next best lead is a radio lead, because basically we get the local host to endorse you, and it's basically a referral. So, with radio, everything is so critical. You got to be on the right station. You got to have the right demographic. You have to have the right schedule. You have to find people where there's intent, when there's intent, and you have to deliver the right message. We spent 7 months pounding this to get this model right. We got it. So if you're thinking about leveling up for 2015, come on, guys. It's the end of January. Don't mess around. Send us a call. Go to Real Estate Radio Experts. Fill it out. And let's see if radio is right for you. All right. One last thing. If you are going to Keller Williams family reunion, February 6th through whatever, 11th or 12th or something, let's meet up. I'm going to be out there. I'm going to be out there February 6th, 7th, 8th, and I'm leaving on the 9th. I think I fly out of there like at 3 o'clock or something. So again, I know a bunch of you listeners are KW folks. If you're going to go, let's meet up. Send me an email. All right, that's it. Hey, let's get to the show. On the show today, hey man, I am really excited to talk to today's guest. Today's guest is in Kansas City, Missouri, so not Beverly Hills, not Manhattan, but this person has a team, a mega team, has a team of 40 people. He will do 600 transactions this year, so he's not messing around, for a total of 140 million in volume, and that's because, look, he's in Kansas City, Missouri. Average sale price is $230. Unfortunately, he's not in San Diego, or this guy would be like number one in the nation. Today's guest, I'm thrilled to welcome Rob Ellerman. Hey, Rob, thanks for taking the time out today, man.
Hey, thanks, man. Glad to be here.
Hey, so I've given the audience just sort of a brief nuts and bolts overview of what your team looks like. But before we get to your business, before we get to your team, tell us a little bit about who Rob is, right? Who's the man behind the machine? And then we'll talk about your business.
Yeah, absolutely. I graduated college in 1995 and decided to come up here to Kansas City, which Central Missouri State University is where I graduated from, and that was about about a 30-minute drive from where I'm at now. And I came up here and answered an ad in the paper. Started with a little local brokerage firm, and it was funny how we got started. The broker actually said, "All right, first thing you need to do is write down everybody you know in the city." And I looked at him and said, "Yeah, I don't know anybody in the city." And he said, "No, I'm talking about your doctor, your veterinarian, your friends, your family." I said, "Man, I just moved up here. I don't know one person in Kansas City." And he couldn't believe it. He just looked at me like, "Yeah, this guy's going to do real well in this industry."
Right.
So that was kind of my start. I just basically looked at him and said, "Tell me where there's a basketball game." And I play a lot of basketball and still do to this day, and get a lot of business from sports. It's kind of my niche. And so I found the first game and then just started, obviously telling everybody what I was doing. And that's kind of how I got my start up here in Kansas City.
How funny. How funny. I mean, I think a lot of people, have that. Well, two things. Number one, they truly don't know anybody. Similar to you, they just moved there. Or two, they feel like they don't know anybody. And either way, it's easy, again, for a guy like you to go out and meet people. So, you went and found a basketball game. You started playing basketball. Now, how long did it take you? Was that the extent of your marketing when you first started?
Yeah, literally. I mean, I just found, of course, I played a lot of basketball, so I would find a game everywhere I possibly could. What I did, I think that was a little bit unique is I made sure that everybody knew what I was doing, that I was in real estate. And so everybody I played basketball with, they knew when it was time to buy a house or sell a house, they were going to call me. We also traveled the country playing flag football at the time, and we played aired out 4-on-4 aired out football. And I met the president of one of the companies here in Kansas City on the football field in Nebraska. And so out of state, I knew a guy playing quarterback that was the president of a company here. And so we got back into town and, of course, reached out to him, and he started sending me referrals, that first year. So it was funny, it didn't matter if we were playing and we were being super competitive. I was willing to give up a touchdown in that 4-on-4 flag football for a referral.
Right. So how long did you do that before you? I mean, because currently, look, you can't get to 600 transactions playing basketball. So, at what point did you kind of step back and level up and create an actual real business?
Right. Well, what was interesting is a lot of people ask me, did you have in your mind you wanted to build this mega team and do all these transactions, and I really didn't. As a matter of fact, I can remember specifically saying, I don't want to have a team. I don't want to work with listings. I like buyers, and I don't want to do new construction. And now we have 150 listings. We have 20 subdivisions that we work with, about 15 builders. So I'm doing all the stuff that, I didn't think I wanted to do, but it just kind of started. I ran my business. That first year I did, $2.7 million, I think, in volume.
Wow.
Which was decent for, knowing zero people in the city.
Yeah, for sure.
And I just think that, I think when you get into business and as, no matter how many years in the business you are, this business, if you just outwork people, you can win. So that's all I did, is I just, outworked people, and I think it was about 9 years in, I started, I was doing, I think, about $11 million on my own, which is a lot of transactions here.
Yeah.
And I didn't have an assistant, didn't have a buyer's agent or anything. And I started seeing a few things fall through the cracks, and I said, time's right to bring somebody on board. And I hired my first, buyer's agent, which all my agents can do both list and sell, so I don't have strictly buyer's agents on the team, but that's what we called her at the time. And she came on board, and she's still with me. And then we hired a second one a little bit later. She's still with me. Third hire still with me. Fourth hire still with me.
Wow.
And we've been going for those agents have been on the team over 10 years now.
So I want to talk about that, because I think that's really, really important. So you, Rob, have built, you had to have built this phenomenal culture for literally your first buyer's agent, and when she stepped in, you had to have gone a little bit crazy, right? So you probably, were not always super nice to her, but I do want to talk about company culture, but let's step back for a second. At what, I missed that timeline. So at what point were you doing to about $10 million, and so that's about 60 deals. That's when you hired your first buyer's agent. How long did it take you to get there on your own?
I think I was 8 or 9 years in on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it took a while to get there.
Yeah. Again, I mean, I come up, and had zero, COI list in the city. So it was literally just trying to generate new business. And that's kind of what I did. Just like I said, outworked people and just told everybody, and it started growing. But yeah, it took me a while. I see people get in the business now, and they've grown up here. They went to school here, and they immediately take off. And I think, man, they took off a lot quicker than me. But they always flatten out too. They don't continue to grow. So.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, if I do the math on that, if you 95, you graduated, you started working in real estate. So it took you. Call it 10 years, just round numbers, right? 8 or 9 or 10. Let's call it 10. It took you the first 10 years to go from 0 to 60 deals, okay? And it took you the next 10, or again, rough math, 04 to 2014, to go to 600, right? 0 to 60 took you 10 years, and then you went from 60 to 600 in the next 10. That's incredible. Now, if I go back, Rob, clearly it sounds like you played sports in college. I mean, sports are a big part of what you like to do. Now, did you play sports in college, or am I just inferring that?
Yeah, well, I didn't play in college. I went to a school that you probably could have, set the bench maybe there or whatever in basketball. But I didn't go to the schools that I was recruited to, which were just some NAIA basketball. I was NAIA talent with maybe small Division II talent. But I went to a little bigger Division II school, and I was more, probably 9th or 10th guy on the bench at that kind of school. So I didn't play. Kind of regret not playing a little bit, but probably played more, in the rec leagues and stuff than I would have if I practiced every day.
Yeah, and here's the point that I want to make is, you said, hey, you can outwork, if you can outwork your competitor, you're going to win. And that's what you did, right? You said the first 10 years, you just were outworked everybody. And I guess I want to understand, I want the audience to understand, this work ethic of yours. I'm inferring that it came from the dedication and the commitment that you had to getting good at a sport.
I got you. Yeah, I think, when I look back and think about how hard I worked to get started and everything, I actually go back a little farther into my high school days and my grade school days, because we grew up in southern Missouri, and, all summer long when a lot of my friends were at the pool or doing whatever, I was, hauling hay, cutting wood, doing all that, and that was my summers. I worked so hard all summers doing that, and so when we come up here, I remember somebody saying, "Man, you work really hard," and I just looked at him and said, "This isn't hard.
Right,
this is easy. I'm not loading hay into a 110-degree loft on a bright sunny day, so it seemed really easy to me."
How funny. Okay. So that just again, whatever you learned from your childhood, that just automatically now. Okay. So that's good to know. 'Cause I think a lot of people go, well, hard work. I think I'm working hard, but I think, but I guess if they compared their work ethic to yours, you might go, you're hardly working.
Yeah. And now, I worked hard back then. So, hopefully I don't have to work as hard now. And that was, that eventually became part of the plan.
Yeah, no, for sure. You put the hard work in now and take it easy later. So your personality, you liked working with buyers, and why? I mean, did you, or did you not want to work with buyers? No, yeah, you wanted to work with buyers.
Yeah, I wanted to work with buyers, and that seems crazy to me now.
Yeah, for sure.
But back then, we didn't get a lot of training at the small firm I was with initially, so that was part of it. I felt like I didn't know what I was supposed to do when I listed a house. Huh. How do I market it? Where does it go? We just didn't get a lot of direction at that first company, and buyers were easy. They're pre-approved. You go out, find them a house, and they buy it. So I think that was the what was in my head was, I know how to do this. I'm good at it. I was good at closing deals. I've been told, I can close the deal faster than anybody around. I've got agents that say I show 50 houses and you go and show 3 and you write a contract. And so I was good at closing. So I think that was what was in my head. And then once you start knowing the business and learning the business, you realize, listing's where it's at, obviously, and that's what you want to focus on. So that did change, but what I was saying earlier was just that it's funny how it has changed. Everything I thought I didn't want to do, it ended up exactly what I did, and I was good at it. So it's just funny how I look back and say, I never had these plans to do this, but it did work out well.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to get at. I'm trying to I'm trying to have the audience kind of track this, right? Like what got you to the first 60, and then how'd you get what happened for you to change your notion of wanting to work with listeners instead of not. So what was it?
Gotcha.
And so was there a point, Rob, that you realized that working with buyers wasn't scalable? What you couldn't build a large business with that?
Sure. I think that came right when I hired the first buyer's agent. I think I realized, things are falling through the cracks. I'm not, I'd call a buyer up and they'd say, "Oh yeah, we bought one last week." And I'm thinking, how did I miss it?
Right.
So a few things started falling through the cracks. And then once I got my first couple people on board, then what happened, I'll tell you what happened to my business that was the best thing to make me grow, and that was the recession. Huh. And that sounds insane,
yeah.
But what happened around our area was all I heard in the office was, "Man, it's starting to get bad. Everybody's forecasting some really bad times. Save your money. Don't advertise. Pull in. You better just sit back for a while." And I started thinking, I know what Warren Buffett says. When everybody else is buying, you sit back. When everybody else isn't, you buy. Mm-hmm. So get greedy. So I went out and started negotiating deals with all the print, all the advertising I could, any billboards, print. I did everything, and I was the guy on the front page of as many things as I could be on. And so what happened is people started going, "Well, you're the only guy advertising. Everybody else is pulling back." And so I started getting all these calls. So from the recession, and just that over that about 3-year period, I went from 75 sales to 375 sales.
Holy
during
smokes.
the recession.
That's amazing. So, and I'll bet you that because everybody's pulling out, nobody's advertising, I bet you got some smoking deals on stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. That was the time to buy too, and we played that up, and now's the time to be buying these houses and stuff. So
yeah.
So what happened at that point during the recession is a pretty big developer in town called me and said, "Hey, you're the only guy out there. I want to see who this Rob Ellerman guy is," and wanted to sit down and have coffee. We ended up negotiating. I took over 3 subdivisions. And started to really work the new construction into things. And I think one of the things that has kept my growth going is when I did that, everybody was telling me, "Well, there goes your resale business because, once you start new construction, you're going to dive in 100% and your resale is going to, fade away." And I said, "Well, I plan on having a resale division and a new home division." And they just kind of would laugh. And I had so many people tell me it's not going to work. And so I would just train the agents to be on the subdivision. And we'd also have agents that didn't want to do subdivisions and just do resale. And I grew both of those businesses. And during that period, when I was doing that and trying to make sure that was good, that's when the work really took off. I remember a 2.5-month period that I was probably in the office from 6 a.m. to at least midnight, and that was 6 days a week, and I'd work a half day, which was 9 to 5 on Sunday. So
half day.
That
like a literal half day.
But I did that, so I knew I had to get it structured correctly in order for it to run, And so now when we have a down market in resale a little bit, my new construction's doing good. When new construction goes down a little bit, resale's still doing good. So we've got a great balanced team now, and that helps, on income, obviously, when you've got that balanced business like that. So that's really what kind of got me going. So we started, then once that developer had me marketing their things, their houses, then obviously another developer said, "Well, man, why are you doing that? I want to hear what you're all about." And so then we started kind of taking off on the new construction side of things as well. So now we have a big resale team and a big new construction team, and that just shot us up the ranks. Yeah.
So to help me and the audience understand, so you were the only guy doing any kind of advertising. Then this contractor, this builder reached out to you because Because what did he want to really kind of jump on your bandwagon, right? If you're out there doing print advertising or whatever kind of advertising you're doing, did he want to say, hey, listen, I'll let you sell my houses, but I want you to, was he getting free advertising by allowing you to sell his subdivision?
Right, yeah. We would shut down the neighborhoods, and we'd be exclusive. So every house that sold in there, we were the listing agent.
Okay.
And of course, if somebody walked in the door, we would double dip it, so we'd sell both sides of it. And yeah, we did all the marketing for him. So we were in all the publications, and his neighborhoods were advertised and so forth. So he wasn't getting that at the time. They had their own license. That they were working the neighborhoods, and so they wanted to get somebody in there to actually market it for them, and so that took off. And
Rob, hold not cut you. I don't want you to get too far ahead.
Okay, no, go ahead.
So because I just want to understand. So you said you were doing the marketing for him. Now, who was paying for it? Were you did they see you as the brains, like, hey, this guy knows how to create a marketing plan, or did they say, listen, he knows how to do it and he's going to pay for it, so we'll let him sell our houses? Who was paying for that advertising?
Right, I was.
You were, okay.
I was.
Okay.
Yeah. So we were, and of course, advertising at the time was super cheap, so it worked out pretty well. But we'd come in with a marketing plan and say, here's what we're going to do. Here's where all the houses are going to be advertised, which made the builders who, were still building in the marketplace, because we went from. Oh, don't quote me on this, but I think it was like 900 builders down to like 120 builders in Kansas City. So Kansas City is known as kind of the mom and pop building. We don't have a lot of really big builders like the national companies.
Yeah.
The number one builder in our city sold 225 homes this year. And that's our client, and we do all their stuff. So I say we do all their stuff that's not in a scattered lot community. So anything that they own, the neighborhood, we get. So we'll probably do, of those 600, they're probably 100 of our transactions.
Wow.
So yeah, they're a big client, but those builders wanted to be with somebody who would market their properties and also provide training to the agents that were on site. Our on-site agents would work to, when they're on site, they weren't just reading a book or watching a movie. They were actually working to try to sell their house at all times. And so it was a really interesting time, because Kansas City hadn't really ran that way as far as new construction went. So we really became the experts in the new construction field really quickly, and it was all during the recession.
Got it. Now, so you said, you were, what you told us was that, you were you were doing about 75 transactions when you started doing the marketing, and then when these builders and all this stuff happened, you went from 75 to 350. Now, are the economics of selling a new house, in terms of commissions, income, are they the same, apples to apples, resale to new home, or are the margins less to you on the new construction?
Right. Yeah, some of it, it depends on the scenario. If it's a smaller neighborhood, it could be the same. You could get 6% and 3 and 3 split. Sometimes if you've got somebody that's giving you just a whole bunch of houses, obviously you've got to kind of renegotiate that deal and give them a break in certain areas. But like the deal with the builder that I have currently, that's the number one in the city, they also do hundreds of thousands of dollars in their own advertising. So we can work a deal where when I don't have to pay for all the advertising, obviously we put into a marketing fund. So some of that 6% goes back into a marketing fund that they use towards the advertising. So it helps us in the long run, and we would be spending it anyway, even if we were getting apples to apples. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally makes sense. Okay, that's good to know. So Mike, I would wonder, you're this kid who or guy, I don't know. I mean, so 95, you're not that old. You're what, maybe 30?
41.
41. Okay. So go back 20 years or 10 years ago when this started to happen. Or no, I guess we're talking 08. We're talking 08. Okay. You're still young. You spent the first 10 years to hustling, man, to get to 60 deals. Why not just go, okay, man, I got this good thing going. Now I'm doing 350 houses. I'm going to go play more basketball. I mean, what is in you? Maybe this goes back to the whole sports, and maybe you're a competitive guy. What made you dig deep and go, yeah, okay, 350, guess what? I'm going to go 6. And then I'm going to go with that, whatever we want to do. What drives you in that regard?
Right. Well, something did click at some point where I said, hey, this can be bigger than what I've ever believed it could be or dreamed it could be. I never, growing up really poor, and I really, I remember, my mom said something to me the other day that, in my high school, what do they have, those little yearbook things that you say what you want to be in 10 years and all this stuff. And I had a goal of making $60,000 in 10 years. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be making $60,000 a year, 10 years from graduation.
Wow.
And that I would have been completely happy with that, But then I realized I wouldn't be completely happy with that. So something did click eventually, and I think, I hear you ask a lot of people on the shows, what are some of your strengths? And I think my biggest strength is people, and I have a way that, there's so much turnover when it comes to teams, and you just see that over and over and over again. And I really can look at my team and say, I've got my first 4 hires ever. They've been with me forever. How does that happen? And they're doing, 10, 11, 12, $13 million in volume themselves. They're great agents. They could totally go out on their own and be great agents on their own. But I think the way you structure a team is you've got to provide them enough support and enough stuff, and we can get into stuff if you want.
Yeah.
But, they have to be like, if I go out on my own, I lose all of this. Mm-hmm. And I see teams running all the time that they just want to put somebody on their team, and they're not really providing them anything. They're not really providing them leads. They're not providing them the advertising when they sit down at a listing appointment to say, hey, here's all the stuff you're going to be in, if you're with me. So I think our agents look at it and say, hey, I've got all of this stuff, and it's really worth being here. And we also pay them really well. I'm not greedy because, in my opinion, why be greedy? Because they're going to leave. You'll be greedy for a little while, and then you lose it all.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So
no, and look,
anyway.
We're on a good topic because I did want to get to company culture and find out how you recruit and you retain people. Why do people join? I'm actually writing something. So this next set of questions is going to be kind of self-interested for me personally, and I'm sure people in the audience. Why, when people are looking at a team to join, Rob, what are some of the considerations they should think about when looking at a team to join, and if they should even join a team?
Okay. Well, everybody's different, and we tell people, you may or may not be a fit for the team, and we turn away a lot of people, because we don't think they're a fit for the team. But what we try to do, I guess I can only speak for what we provide, which is what I think agents need. We provide a full-time office manager that's here 40 hours a week, obviously. And then I've actually got a marketing manager and a marketing assistant, and my marketing manager has a graphic design degree. So we rock out some of the best ads in town, some of the best personal promotion. If that agent comes on board and wants to mail their COI list, she can, make a postcard that will wow everybody. And it's quick, and it's at their fingertips. They go out and list a house. They just hand a file in, and it just goes through the system. All the flyers are made. We had DVDs made of the virtual tours. All the websites are automatically done for them. So it's that service of being able to hand that in and go sell another house and not do that administrative work.
Yeah.
So that stuff's big, and the more money that I make, the more I put back into the business. And so we'll have a meeting, and I'll say, here's what I'm doing for you. We're going to try to generate leads this way. We generate as many leads as we possibly can. We hand those out to the agents that want them. We have some people on the team that don't want team leads. And that's because it's on a different split level. Obviously, I pay them higher if it's their own lead, and if it's my lead, then it's paid a much smaller percentage because we're spending the money to generate that lead.
Yeah, and I do. Maybe I would like to know what those. I know what other teams do the splits are, and I don't know that it's. We need to talk about that here, but so I think when people think of a team, I think they should look at that, right? What are the leads they're going to get, if any? And I think most teams are siloed. Now, you said earlier that your team is not siloed, right? If a buyer's agent can do a listing, is there
right? And
Go ahead, Rob.
I feel like that's where the turnover comes in at. I mean, eventually, if you get a good enough agent that says, why do I keep turning over all these listings that I get referred by my friends and family and people I know, eventually they're like, I'm going to go out on my own because this is how much I could make. And so the grass always looks greener on the other side, in my opinion. And I've always said I may not be right on it, so I'll just give you what I think. But yeah, I mean, if they can do both, then there's no limitation, there's no ceiling for them under my team. If we have a lead call come in that's automatically, I want to sell my house, then I have a lead listing agent who takes that listing and she works on a smaller percentage because she gets every one of the listings that come in. But if a buyer calls in and wants to see a house and we hand it off to a buyer's agent or another agent, and then you find out they have a house to sell, they've gained the rapport with that buyer, so they can just move right along and list and sell their house.
Got it. I'll tell you a quick story. So there's a big team and I won't say where, but he's not too far from you. And I gave this guy whatever. I matched up this kid who was getting into real estate with this team, and I felt good about the whole thing. And I said, hey, let's keep talking. I want to know what's going on, your development and what they're having to do. And then I find out that he was very siloed. He was going to be basically an ISA doing expireds, but the way that their system worked is if his mom came and said, I want to sell the house, two things happen. Number one, he turns that over to the lead listing agent, which in this case happens to be the team leader. And I said, okay, maybe that's okay. I said, what percentage do you get of that? He's like, I get 0. And I'm like, whoa, hold on, man. Now I'm feeling bad that I introduced you to this guy. But I mean, it's been working out for him, but I just wanted to get a feeling for, my opinion, Rob, and I've talked with lots and lots of people who have big teams. I think your approach is the fairest and the best. And look, at the end of the day, that's why you have retained, your first person all the way to your fourth. So I think that's awesome. Look, so the other thing, right? So when you're looking at a team, when people, it's leads, it's what are the splits. And then I think the final thing is training. What's your take? What should people look for or believe they should get when they join a team in terms of training?
Right. So that's been probably the hardest thing as I've grown is the training piece, and I think I've accomplished that this year. I took one of my top agents actually. So one of my top agents, I decided to make her my director of growth and development. And so that means recruit, train, be there for any questions, one-on-one. She also distributes the leads. So I've taken that piece, and I tell you, to kind of take one little bit a step back, the number one thing that I think is the hardest thing to get over when you're building a team, and I see it in our industry here in Kansas City over and over again, is when I was doing $25-30 million, and I was handing all my business off to those buyers agents, I would look at somebody else that was doing 10 or 15 million, and they were selling by themselves, and I was thinking they make more money than me because they were keeping everything, and I was handing it all off. So I had in my mind, I know someday that I'm going to be making twice as much money as them and not working nearly as hard as they are because they've got to work 7 days a week selling. So I think a lot of people can't. I just talked to a real estate agent yesterday about it. That they're in that mode right now where they're making really, really good money, and when that lead comes in, and they can make $10,000 commission, or they can hand it off and maybe make $6,000 on it by handing it off. They don't want to lose that $4,000. And you have to take that step backwards when you're building that team, or I don't even want to say, like now they would have to take it backwards. For me, it wasn't necessarily going backwards. I just knew in my head I could be making more money at the time than I was, but I had faith in the fact that I was building something that eventually now I can go to Las Vegas and play in a poker tournament for 2 weeks and I'm okay. Business still rocks and rolls. I can go to Florida and spend time at the condo we have there and it's okay. But back then, it was hard to do. It was really hard to do because I kept saying, maybe I should just work really hard on my own for like 10 years and just retire.
Right.
So anyway, I think that's a big part of that. And so I hired this growth and development director, and now what I'm seeing is when somebody calls me and wants to be on the team, I just hand them right off to her for the interview. She interviews. I have a 100% trust in her that if she thinks they're a fit for the team, she hires them. They're required to go to a week and a half of serious training with her, and then we put them through an 8-week boot camp. And then there's time off, and then another 8-week boot camp, and then time off, and another 8-week boot camp. So,
wow.
So what we're seeing is that the new people that I was hiring were doing 5 deals a year, and now we're getting those new people to do 15 and 20 deals a year because they're getting better training and service from our trainer recruiter.
Okay. There's a lot of stuff right there, and I want to talk this 8-week boot camp. I'm going to write this down. I'm going to come back to that, but here's what I think that I would like to know, and the audience I'm sure is very interested in. That guy or person, girl, whatever, who was doing the $10 million, doing it by themselves, right? They're working like crazy. But they're making more money than you, even though you're doing $30 million, right? So you had this belief, and I also want to talk about mindset in a second. But at what point, because you've been through this, right? Now you're making more than that person, and you're working less, right? You can go to Vegas or Florida or whatever. Where's that inflection point? Like, where's the number that all of a sudden it makes more? Is it 50 million? Is it 60 million? I may not be asking this question exactly right, but I think you know what I'm getting at.
Right. Yeah, and I don't know what that number is, honestly. I think that all depends on, a lot of things, the split levels that the agents are on that are selling for you, whether it's new construction or resale. There's a ton of factors that go into that. So it's really more about, I just knew at times I was making $100,000 or $150,000, and I knew the guy down the hall was making $250,000. I was thinking, man, he's making $100,000 more than me, and I'm doing more volume than him. And I don't know exactly what those numbers were either. I just knew that I knew from talking to him where his net was and where my net was. And so I think that's the biggest, because we see teams in town start. We see them go away. We see them stay, but they flatline. They do $20 or $30 million every single year, and that's where they're at. But all the team leaders sell, and so they're not spending their time growing the team. They're spending their time selling the real estate. And so I'm so much more focused now on what can I do to grow the team. We have a suburb called Lee Summit, Missouri, and that's where our hub is. This last year, I just opened an office within my same company, 30 minutes away in Overland Park, Kansas, and then 30 minutes away in Parkville, Missouri. So we got north of the river, we've got over the Kansas line, and then we've got Missouri. And that's a great thing about our company is we're a big company, and so I could just set up shop in each of those offices.
Hold on.
Now the focus is growing.
Help me understand real quick. So you set up these new teams, 30 minutes away or whatever. So are you having to take on, are you having to go and sign a lease and do tenant build out in those buildings, or are they locations that are there you can just move into?
Right. Locations that are there that we can move into. So our company has 18 offices citywide. Got it. So we have over 2,300 agents, and that's, I'm a big proponent of, I'm not a big fan of, being at an independently owned company, because that's the problem. If you want to go to another part of the city, you've got to do the tenant build out, right, and all that stuff.
That costs money, man. That's a big, and I thought for a second that's what you're doing. You're like, oh, I'm opening up all these offices. I'm like, wait a second, man, Will, what does that do to your bottom line? But, going back to bottom line a little bit, I want to go back to that $10 million, $30 million, right? So earlier, Rob, you said, hey, you grew up really poor. If you could make $60,000, in 10 years from graduating, so that would put you graduate at 18, so almost 30 years old, you'd be happy. what mind shift did you have to go through to not be, I guess it goes back to that time when you were making $100,000 and the guy down the hall was making 250, but you were putting up more numbers. Like, did you get some coaching? Like that's a tough thing to work through. Help us understand how you work through that to see the long game.
Right. I'm not sure I have an answer for you. I've never done any coaching, pretty much. It's all just been kind of, self-taught or looking at it. Really, I feel like what happened was once I realized the money that in real estate has no ceiling,
mm-hmm.
then I started thinking, well, why can't I do this much? I mean, for a while there, I've been doing it for 19 years. I've never had a down year yet. So we've had growth for 19 consecutive years.
Wow.
And that was when I was by myself or with the team. We've grown every year. And I guess there for a long time I would always say, I can't do any more than I did last year. That was phenomenal. I broke all of my records and,
right.
That I can't do any more. And then you do more. And then you say, I can't do any more than that for sure. And then you do more. And so then eventually I said, hey, wait a minute. Why do I keep saying that? I can do as much as we want to do. And so I just realized that it had no ceiling. And again, I go back to one of my first statements, if you outwork people, how much money you can make. And this industry is such a relationship industry. If you just meet as many people as possible and do the right thing for the people that you're helping, you can outwork people and make money.
Yeah.
So I think just eventually I just said, you know what? And then I tell you what, I do love the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. That's one of my favorite books. And I did read that and say, why can't I be on that 7th level where I don't go to listing appointments and I don't work with buyers? And of course, around our area, nobody's really doing that too much, if at all.
Dude,
I was pretty much.
Yeah, I'll say.
I was going
to say there are very, very few. I mean, look, I talk with everybody. There are very, very few people out there that are that have true 7th level businesses. So I'm not surprised that in Kansas City, Missouri, you're not seeing it.
Yeah. So I was told many things. When they call Rob Ellerman, they're going to want Rob Ellerman, and I said no. I think that they want good service and they want a good marketing plan and they want to get their house sold. Well, no, they're going to want you. They're going to want you. There's no way you can do it. And so I haven't been on a listing presentation in I don't know how long, and I don't do buyers, and so it's worked. And
awesome.
Again, am I making as much money as I could if I did work some of those deals myself? I don't know. Maybe not, but I feel like we're continuing to grow, and I think that the money we're making is really good money, and I could really go out of town for the entire winter if I wanted to, and my team is such rock star status at this point, they would just keep trucking, and I wouldn't miss a beat.
Yeah, and look, the thing with that, are you making as much money as you probably could? You probably are not, but that's okay because you know what you're getting back as time, and the deal is money is a renewable resource. Time is not. So I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think it's the way you spend that time too. I mean, the time I spend now is managing, growing the team, and then I do a lot of stuff, personally on the side with business too. So I mean, when you can go own 30 lots and start building 9 houses with one of your guys and do rentals and do some Florida stuff because it's cheap in Florida right now, and that kind of stuff. I mean, you're building. You may not be making as much money on this side of it, but I'm making a lot more money having the time to make some money over here in
right.
another avenue. So yeah. I mean, I think it's working great. I mean, I can't complain, but it's been a long road, and now I finally feel like it's smooth sailing.
That's awesome, man. So, going back to just some tactical stuff. I don't know if, I don't know if you can remember this, but you started doing all sorts of advertising. You mentioned print, and what advertising do you or avenues or channels seem to work then, and what's working for you well now? What should people be, if they were going to do like their first big campaign, where would you point them?
Right. Well, we always tell people right off the bat is to hit your COI list. I mean, that's what everybody says. I mean, that's not rocket science. It's what you should be doing because of the relationship piece of the business. Mm-hmm. I've seen people get in this business who, like I mentioned earlier, grew up here, went to school here, and we had a guy that just came in, and he in the first 4 years he was already up to like $17 million in sales. I mean, just way faster than I got to $17 million in sales. But he knew everybody. I mean, and so I talked to him and I said, you know, what's your budget for advertising? And he looked at me and he just held up his hands and held up a zero. And I said, you don't advertise at all? And he said 0, because he just strictly worked that COI list, you know. But, I mean, I think there's more to it than that. I mean, I have a lot of Michael Mayer is one of my good friends who wrote the 7L book and everything. He's from Kansas City. So, you know, he's all about that relationship building, referral building network. And I always tell him all the time, I love that. But then why not go ahead and generate some leads from advertising too?
Right. Yeah.
You know, so I don't disagree with the idea, but why not? You know, if somebody's arguing, well, advertising's better or referrals are better, why not do both?
Yeah, because ideally, you know, those are two different audiences. So, you know, you work your sphere here and do some advertising. Those are two, you know, I don't know what, there's two different ponds. You know, have your pole in both.
Right. So we still, you know, we get a lot of, we hear a lot of flack about us about doing the print that we do. Oh, print's dead and this and that, and we get a lot of stuff off of it. And even if it's just a lot of branding, you know, when people are looking at houses, they're still picking up those magazines. Yeah. I mean, they really are. And if you're in every single one of them, they realize, hey, that's a team that, you know, they're putting my house everywhere if I list with them.
Yeah. So listen.
No, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was just saying, man, we have to start wrapping up. There's so much more I want to ask you, and I don't know. What do you think would be more valuable to the audience? You know, either talk about, you know, what you do with those boot camps and why, or do you have something else I didn't ask you that you think that, you know, you'd like to get across to everybody?
Right. Well, the boot camp stuff, I think, is just, you know, it's doing what a lot of people are doing, you know, teaching them to call their COI and hold open houses and do that, but it's an accountability boot camp. So they have homework that they get, and they have to do these. You get points for everything that you can do, and there's a total of 155 points a week that you can get. And then they come in for an hour and a half on Monday, and they tally up all their points, and we give prizes for top points for the week. We get a big prize for whoever graduates with the top points, and then you only graduate from that boot camp if you get so many points to go to the next boot camp, which is harder. So we've got it systemized, it's just an accountability thing. I run my business a lot different than a lot of people. My agents run their own personal business underneath my umbrella. So I don't. If they want to come in and do $2 million a year, then that's okay. That's what their business plan is, and I don't say, how many calls have you made, and did you do this, and did you do that? I give them all the tools, and I give them the boot camps and stuff. If you want some accountability and you want us to kick you in the butt, we will. But if you don't want us to, that's okay. We won't. So I think that's another reason we retain so well is we don't, you know, I don't get somebody in and say, you know, you have to be a $3 million producer or you're off the team. Right. You know, we've got people on the team that sold one house last year. And then we've got people on the team that sold 90. So, you know, it's just a matter of where they want their business to be. So for the boot camp stuff, I think as far as if this is picking my brain to build a team, I think the absolute hardest part is what we've already talked about is understanding that there's going to be a point where you're not making as much money as you can make, and you feel like I'm handing off my business. Every time I hand off a lead, I'll just tell you we get 60% and they get 40% of that deal. So they get 40% for that lead. Now, what we've done differently is I'm handing off my business. And so years ago, I said, boy, this feels really weird. You know, if you guys quit me, I've handed off a lot of my business to you, and you've gained a rapport with those people, and I don't have it, so I'm going to lose it. So what we did back then, and it's stuck today, is any lead that comes from that lead is also at 40% is considered a team lead. So if I refer you somebody, you sell them a house, you become really good friends with them, and they refer you their sister, I'm paid at 60% and you're 40% on that lead as well.
Yeah. And what about
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, yeah. So what about the fact that most team leads make people sign a non-compete, meaning that, okay, listen, I'm going to give you Jim Smith, came in as a lead, called whatever. Jim Smith came to us as the team. I gave Judy Jim Smith, and most people, most team leads say, listen, anybody I give you, anybody that you meet while you work here, and it gets put in the database, you have a non-compete for 2 years.
Right, but it's not going to work. That's never going to work because that person's going to refer you her sister.
Yeah.
How do you keep that from happening?
Yeah, you can't do that. Yeah, you can't do that.
So
yeah.
So you could do the one person and try to track it and make sure you're keeping track of who left your team and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I've never run it that. My deal is if you don't want to be on the team, let's sit down and talk. If we can't make it work, then go out on your own. I hope you're successful. You can be in the office down the hall for me. I don't mind.
Man.
That's part of the retention thing. I mean, treat people how you'd want to be treated. And we've got teams in town that, I've heard that there's non-competes, and if you leave the team, you can't sell for 60 miles from this. That's not me. I mean, we're all about not burning a bridge. I just had a guy that left the team a year and a half ago, and this year he's back. I left the door open. He's like, man, I was crazy to leave. Came back. If you burn that bridge and you try to do non-competes and stuff, again, I'm not saying I'm right on it. That's just the way I run my business.
No, I think look, if I was in your shoes, I could go to bed at night and sleep well. If I non-competes and I started suing people, which people do. I've had people on my show a little bit bragging, like, yeah, that guy left. I kept track of all his deals. I went back. I had this guy come on and he told the whole story. And he said, I watched every single. His wife was a lawyer. He said, I watched everybody's deal. I watched this one guy for 2 years. I put everything down because you can't sue after 2 years. At the end of the 2 years, sued the guy, and he said, and I won, right? And I said, oh, that's good for you. And then he went on and said, and he's like, I broke that guy. And I'm like, man, that's so hardcore, dude.
Yeah, that's bad karma.
Yeah. Well, and again, sorry, Rob.
Yeah, we're never gonna be that way, and I that's probably one of the things I'm the most proud of is that we have such good retention, and we have such a to have 40 people and to make it feel like family, it's pretty hard to do.
Really,
and and we have it, and we just have a great team that love to be together, and I've given away tens of thousands of dollars just to make somebody happy. I mean, if they come in and they say, man, I worked this lead and it took me 800 hours and I'm going to make $700. And I'm like, no, you shouldn't make $700 for that many hours. I won't take pay on that. You just take the whole thing. And they're like, oh, thank you. that helps me so much. And I mean, what's a few $100 here and there to make somebody, extremely happy and to gain that loyalty from them too. So nobody's ever left the team and said, you're an absolute jerk. I don't want to be with you anymore. It's always for, a different reason. Maybe they want to go out and try to run their own business or whatever. But even then, I mean, we've literally lost just a few people that were of any kind of, consequence to the team. I mean, significance to the team, I should say. And even that, you're talking about maybe a $3 million producer.
Got it.
A really small producer in the big scheme of things.
In the big scheme of your 600. Well, so look, you clearly run your business in different than a lot of mega teams that come on that I meet. Okay. And again, we have to start. We have just a couple minutes before we have to wrap up. I'm going to get your take on the future of the industry. Certainly with, as you're doing all the sorts of advertising. We didn't get into the kinds of advertising you're doing, which is unfortunate, but you certainly have advertising channels, marketing channels that are open that leads come in. At some point, I imagine you could actually not do the 60-40 split and say, hey, come on board. I'm going to give you a salary of X, and maybe I'll bonus you out or whatever. Do you see teams like yours ever going to a more corporate or more, how law firms kind of are structured?
Right. I've actually done some draws before when I think somebody's that could be good. I've said, hey, I had somebody that was making $1,500 a month, and I'm like, I'll give you $1,500 a month. Come over, and we'll just take it out of each check, and we'll see where we end up at the end of the year, and you'll draw back that $1,500 and then make anything above that. And to be honest, that's never worked for me.
Huh.
Every time I've ever done it, at the best, I've broken even. And I've done it maybe 3 times. So I think there's something to be said about for somebody that comes on board and they know it's zero commission, it's zero pay, it's all commission, and they're hungry, and they seem to sell so much better when they know they got that $1,500 coming in a month.
Right.
Which doesn't sound like a lot, but for somebody that's making $1,500 a month, that's where they're at, and so it's never worked for me. So on the future of that, I don't see me doing that as far as my team's concerned. I mean, I do bonus my staff and some stuff like that, but I want my agents. I mean, I've got agents making, $180,000, $190,000 a year. Could I get somebody to sit in their spot for $50,000 or $60,000 a year? Probably. Would they be as rock star as the person making $180,000? Not a chance. Right. I mean, that's why they're making $180,000. So I don't see, us doing that, and maybe some of the mega teams might do that in certain situations, but probably not little old me here in Kansas City.
Well, I'm trying to, especially with this show, I have the fortunate ability to be able to talk with people like you all the time. So, I always try to pick your brain on, or people's brain on, what they see, what's coming up next. So, hey, Rob, man, I appreciate you coming on the show. I'm going to ask the same last 2 questions I ask everybody, and the first one is this. It's a book recommendation. Now, if you like, I think you said, well, if you say a book that is banned, I'm just going to tell you it's banned, because there's a few that are, because people say them too much. So here's the deal. Let me give you the setup. I'm an aspiring agent. I have $25. What book should I go buy today?
Oh, man, that's a good question. $25. Well, I mean, I have to say I'm not. I have to say that the book that really took me over the top was The Millionaire Real Estate Agent.
Banned.
I'm not a part of the Keller Williams system at all here, but I still respect it, and I respect the book, and I think there's a lot of things to learn from that. I mean. I never thought in my head what's seventh level, any of that kind of stuff. And when you read it, you really realize that, things can be ran without you going to every single appointment, and talks about lead generation and all that stuff. So that's probably the one. I mean, I read a lot of different books, but that was the one that probably made some things click for me. Yeah, no, and I mean, that is a great book. I mean, I obviously have that on my shelf. That is one of the ones that are banned. So, because it just, it is very influential, and a lot of people say, because it has nuts and bolts. It has stuff like, if you don't know anything, read that book, and at least you'll know where to start. And, and because look, what you said to me earlier, I'm sure you recall this. You liked working with buyers because you know what? You didn't know what to do with a listing, right? But if you read that book, you'll have an idea of what to do. So, but give us another one, because that comes up too much. I got you. The one that I think is just a really super quick read, and I use a lot for my agents, is Palumbo's 37 Closing Rules. 37 to Live By. That's a great one. It just talks about how to use the psychology of persuasion and influence. And there's it's real quick. It's 37 tips, and I mentioned that earlier in our conversation that I could close, and I never knew why I could close. I just knew I was good at closing, and I have agents that say I show all these houses and stuff, and so when they read these little tips, and it gives them the ideas of, oh yeah, that's a great way to try to close, and we don't want to be pushy, and we don't want to be used car sales and all of that stuff, but you do want to nudge everybody towards the end goal, and that's closing the deal. I mean, we are in it to make money, and so that's kind of a neat little book. I have that on my shelf, and I always refer back to it, and I think it's kind of a neat. I'm going to buy it. Look, Rob, that is the first time this book has ever come up. I just looked it up. 37 Closing Rules to Live or Die By John A. Palumbo. Unfortunately,
this thing on Amazon's got 5-star reviews. It's only got 3 of them. So, but it's $9.95. It's worth it to me to get it. And look, for everybody out in the audience, if this is on Audible, you can get a free copy. Just use our link, audibletrial.com/superagentslive. Here's the last question I ask everybody, Rob, and it's this. For you, and I think I know what your answer is, but for you throughout your 20 years of doing this, and you have this amazing business. Is there any personal habits? And I know earlier you said outwork, but if you want to stick with that one, that's okay. But do you have any personal habits that you feel have contributed to your success?
In personal habits, 100% every single day. Not including weekends anymore, but every single day I get up, shower, get dressed, go to the office. And I'm in the office every single day. And, to me, a lot of people say, well, I'm going to work from home or whatever. And there are some successful people that work from home for sure. But the majority of people that try to work from home, are watching Gilligan's Island and Andy Griffith and,
right.
all the TV and stuff.
And Gilligan never gets off the island, man. It's not a mystery. And Aunt B makes pie every episode. Yeah. So it's going to be what it is. But yeah, so I think that as far as just a personal habit, I'm here every single day. And so agents know they can peek their head in and talk to me and I'm here to answer any questions, or they know I'm in here trying to grow the team and grow the business and make them more money. And, I'm looking at stuff now with my team like profit sharing, and I haven't delved into that stuff, but I want to share profits of the team, with some of my main people that have been with me for a really long time. So that's the stuff that I. Yeah, no, I think. I'm sorry. No, I was just saying, I think that's a great tip, man. Get up, get dressed, right? Get dressed and be dressed professionally. It just puts you in the mindset of going to work. And if you're at home, there's your dog's coming up. You want to pet your dog, your cat, or whatever. There's too many distractions. What time? If people want to copy this or model you, what time are you in the office, and what time would you say people should be in the office every day?
Right. Well, now I've got a 10-year-old and a 5-year-old, so I do a lot of helping get them ready in the morning and off to school and stuff. So a lot of times I'll drop my 10-year-old off around 8:30 to 8:45, and so I'll be in between 8:45 and 9 o'clock. And quite honestly, there's less than we have an office of 140 agents, and there's never more than 3 or 4 agents in here at that time.
Amazing, man.
And that's not even early. Back when I was working a lot harder, I would come in at 6 o'clock in the morning, and my kids have kind of dictated that a little bit. Like when they were little and they'd wake up at 5 a.m. and need fed, I could get up and feed them and then get them back to bed and shower and go into work by 6. And now they don't need dropped off till 8:30. So that's where I'm at in my life. But
awesome. Oh man, Rob, you certainly, I feel deserve all the success you have. You're a super nice guy. You're super fair, and and you want to not only grow your business and grow yourself, but it really sounds like you're wanting and helping others to grow, both personally and professionally. Here's what I do, Rob, is I always ask my audience, after they listen to you, you've come on, you spent an hour with us, you're a very busy guy. I appreciate it. If they've gotten anything, I always ask them, hey, reach out to Rob, say thank you for taking the time out. So let us know where people can find you to say hello, to say thank you. And maybe there's somebody in Kansas City and they want to work with a guy like you. So where can they find you?
Sure. My email is rob@reesenichols.com. So it's ROB@REECENICHOLS.com, reesenichols.com.
Awesome. And look, for everybody, if you're out there driving your car, walking your dog or whatever, just go to superagentslive.com. I'll have everything on the show notes under Rob Ellerman. Hey, Rob, I'll be the first guy. Man, thank you. I really appreciate you coming on.
Hey, I appreciate you having me.
All right, man. Let's talk soon.
Lots of fun. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Let's go. Yeah. For those of you that want to know